The open enrollment period for health insurance will only run November 1st to December 15th, so make sure you're covered for 2018 with a local carrier you can trust. Children's Community Health Plan, an affiliate of Children's Hospital of Wisconsin, offers Together with CCHP, a health insurance plan that includes a new catastrophic plan for individuals under the age of 30. Our plans give you access to high-quality health care from a broad network of providers in Southeast Wisconsin. Learn more at togethercchp.org.
Blog Talk Radio.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. It is actually a cold and fall-like afternoon in Wisconsin. Sad to report, your host is still half dying on her couch right now. But fortunately, this is, I kind of saved the best for last, actually, because this is my last show of the week. Just want to remind everybody I'm back on the air on Monday. Our rescheduled interview with T. Sean is actually going to be happening at 1 o'clock Central Standard Time. He is a New York City/LA musician that's younger and a little fresh on the scene. So we want to get him some exposure, of course. I don't want to forget to remind everybody, obviously my film festival wrapped up last week in New York, so if anybody has leftover videos, pictures, anything, please go ahead and try to get it sent over to me sooner than later so we can get everything posted up. All the emails have been sent out, and we just need to get the pictures and the videos up, and I think we're pretty well caught up. And yes, this took all week, but unfortunately, some of us have just not been feeling so great. So I appreciate your patience and tolerance. I appreciate just everything that everybody's been doing to be helpful. It's been amazing. I'm very grateful, obviously. And all the other notes in terms of next week's schedule and who's going to be on, just check the Sins Chat Corner page. I should have all of my guest lists on it, so we should be good to go as far as that. So without further ado, because I know Alex has been holding, let's get him on the line and start our interview. Well, hello, Alex. How are you?
I am excellent, Cindy, and you, my friend.
I'm nervous, actually, because I was doing some research about you, and you're established and intelligent and very inspiring gentleman, I might add, for all the accomplishments.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm very, very, very powerful, very powerful.
Oh, you betcha. Well, let's start originally from, you're probably the very first guest I've ever had that originally derived from Moscow, which I thought was so interesting. We don't get, I mean, I've had international guests before, but Russia would be the very first time. So I'm curious to pick your brain a little bit in terms of how business and culture is in the United States versus Russia, because obviously I've never visited. We hear all sorts of things about the United States. So talk to me a little bit about the transition from one country to another country.
Well, you know, in Russia they really had no business when they left. They only had socialism. And my dad actually was, unfortunately, an entrepreneur born in the wrong society. So anytime you buy something for one price and sell it for a higher price, there's a steep fine for it. You can go to jail. It's totally against the law in the all former Soviet Union. So my dad did a lot of that kind of stuff, and it wasn't good for him. And that's one of the reasons they found their way to America, because we like it here. It's awesome. Free enterprise, entrepreneurship, the pursuit of your goals, dreams, become whoever you want. It's amazing.
Oh, I imagine so, definitely. And prior to the business that you're in now, because we're obviously going to talk about your corporation as well as the expo and other things, so tell us a bit about, for the listening audience that isn't familiar with you, your background, meaning did you start off in sales and marketing, et cetera, or were you on a different path and then virtually ended up where you are now?
Well, I was always in sales and marketing, but not like directly educated in sales and marketing. I've always been entrepreneurial, so I started my first business when I was 19, and it was an auto repair shop downtown in the West Village, and I ran that for 8 years, and we took it from zero, well, actually less than zero, to a significant presence in New York. And I didn't even know how to fix cars. All I knew how to do is, kind of. What I learned how to do is how to talk to people and, sell them the things that I felt were helpful for them to have. So I did that for a while, and then I got involved in healthcare, also very accidentally, but I got involved on the wrong side of the spectrum. When I left the auto repair business, I thought to myself, I'm entering healthcare. That's a much cleaner, excellent business. But it's just about as dirty as the auto repair business. In auto repair, the way people made money back in the day was that the entire focus was when a car breaks down, you find it, you pick it up, you take it to your shop, and you sell them an engine or a transmission or something big like that. That's how most shops operated back then. And the same thing is going on in healthcare. The entire system is set up for the management of chronic disease. So everybody's waiting until you break down and you have some kind of a major health issue, and then try to get as much money out of your insurance as possible for as long as possible. That's the scheme. And it's horrible on so many different levels.
Yeah, that's awful. Truly.
Yeah.
And, of course, when you're 19, like I have a daughter that's 22 years old, and I'm thinking to myself, how in God's name did you manage to start any kind of entrepreneur, anything at that age? Because, we're all developing. At 19, we're not as we are right now, right? And you learn so much more about that. Maybe if we have somebody that's listening in, I'm sure, because we have a millennial audience, what would you advise them looking back to that experience in terms of if you were going to start all over and going back to that 19-year-old self of yours, what would you tell him in terms of establishing yourself in business?
Well, the one thing I would do differently for sure is identify people who I can learn from that have accomplished what I'd like to accomplish. So I think it's crucial to kind of know what it is that you want to do with yourself, and then find people that have already done it, and then try to make friends with them. Because people generally tend to be very generous with their time and information and their experience, especially those that have achieved something of notoriety. So that would be the thing I would change. As far as all the struggles that I dealt with and all the failures I've experienced, I carry that kind of as a badge of honor. I don't think I'd want to lose that. But certainly if somebody can guide me a little bit, inspire me maybe, that would have been very, very helpful.
Oh, I imagine so, definitely. And, of course, one of the things we talk about a lot on my show is, because, of course, I'm in promotion and marketing as well, so oftentimes I look at how the industry is going now versus what the way it was 20 years ago. We have this advent of social media and integration of all these new platforms and means by which to get the word out. Do you think in some ways that we've expanded out a great deal and that's much more helpful to the entrepreneurs, or do you think in some ways technology is kind of maybe I'm not necessarily sure that I subscribe to the ideology that social media is the wave of the future, if that makes sense. So I just want to get your take on that in terms of how that's affected your area of business in terms of the advent of all of this new social media versus communication face-to-face, et cetera, if you follow.
Yeah, no, I'm with you 100%. I think when I first started doing these events, there was no social media, so over 13 years ago, and there was barely email. So I've watched the progression of that, and I think for some things, internet clearly works, the web and social media works very, very well. But ultimately, I think relationships and having access to people still is a crucially important aspect. And I think for a while, maybe the younger people kind of lost track of that, or maybe they never even saw that track. That there's that human contact, and it's important. It's important to get on the phone and talk to somebody and kind of convey your message rather than just doing emails or posting stuff on social media. Social media has a place, no question, clearly, and we do a bunch of it. And but I don't think it's as powerful as making a human connection, and I think that gets lost, and that's too bad.
Oh, and I agree with you definitely there, because sometimes it's that connection. Clients, customers, people that we deal with want to know that obviously they're a priority, but they want personal time. And I think it's hard to give social media time, to call that personal time, I should say, because if I'm typing on a laptop to you, I'm not looking at you. I'm not talking to you. There isn't that interconnection that you have, which is why this event you're having is so awesome, because you have FaceTime with all sorts of individuals, from people exhibiting to people that are speaking to people that are attending. Yeah. It's a great avenue, I have to say. I was very impressed to see that you are actually an author yourself, as am I. I want to talk about your book, The Art of Selling, The Art of Healing. I'm very big on people putting their lessons in life onto paper. And so what I'd like you to do, if possible, is to tell everybody when you wrote the book and what inspired you to want to put this down on paper. What was the main motivator for you? Well,
the book came out a couple of years ago. And the motivator was the fact that over the last 20 years I had all this stuff in my brain, and I kept thinking about it. So I thought, I need to get this off my brain and put it on paper, which exactly is what I did, and that kind of opened up my mind to think about other things. So it's a bunch of stories and things. I've been in and around the healthcare industry for 13 years in and around this wellness side and human optimization side, and then another 7 in the regular healthcare, 5 or something. And then there was the auto repair shop before that. So it was all of my life's experience, and the story of me coming from the Soviet Union and the mindset, how different it is. We immigrated through Italy when I was 10 years old. So even though I was fairly young, the mindset that I brought from socialist Russia was pretty, it was pretty undermining, caging. I don't know. It was a very difficult thing to get past and evolve through. But the book is kind of shares that story, but also what I learned about working with physicians and professionals is that many of them are not entrepreneurial at heart. Some are, but most are not. Right. Most are they're more scientists, and they don't really understand how the whole thing works. So when they get fed up with the current healthcare system, which a lot of them are, it's difficult for them to transition from a practice or a hospital setting, an insurance-based practice, into something that's more direct to consumer kind of a relationship. So I've seen a bunch of them start a practice and make all the wrong moves because they have certain perceptions of how things should go, and then they go out of business, which is, I think, very sad. So I want to explain to the doctor of how to do this more successfully. I want to explain to the patient, or not the patient, I want to explain to the public why the approach to healthcare that we have today is the reason why so many people are dealing with so many chronic conditions. I mean, we have everything from cancer that is, they're saying they're going to be diagnosing 1 in 2 people by the year 2030. That's just ridiculous. And then the heart disease, and we're spending $3 trillion a year trying to manage all of this. But it's like a tsunami. How are you going to manage a tsunami with a sponge? It's not just you can't do it. And that's what's happening with our healthcare. It is undermining the health of younger generations. That's why you have unprecedented obesity among the young people and all the problems that come along with that, diabetes, all the different things. So we have a lot of problems in our health, and definitely a lot of problems within our health care. And so we have to kind of wake up around that and take responsibility for it, and that's what I was hoping to achieve with the book.
And in terms of feedback, do you hear back from individuals that have purchased it or read it, or what sort of responses are you receiving with that? Because I imagine that might be a mixed bag in terms of if you're a physician versus somebody that works in another field. Do you follow me? Have you heard anything or any sort of news from people that have read it?
Yes. My mother says it's excellent.
Well, that's no fair. She's mom. What is she going to say?
Well, actually, I had a bunch of doctors. I had a lot of doctors read it, and they send me emails that they love the book and they love the story and they saw something for themselves. Then J.J. Virgin wrote, a win-win for you and your clients. Can't recommend this one highly enough. And then Kat James, she's an award-winning author. She wrote a gritty page-turning adventure and a first-rate marketing education. Must read. A bunch of people said a bunch of nice things, but it was just it was a labor of love. I wrote it in 6 months after thinking about it for 25 years, and there it is.
Oh my gosh! Look at that. Now, I guess my question is, it begged me when I was thinking about it and reading about this. I thought to myself, I wonder if he's got another book in him. Is it presumptuous for me to assume that? Because it almost seems like you might have one more in you. Or maybe I'm encouraging you.
He definitely does. I'm actually working on one. A little slower than the last one, just because, I don't know. I wrote this book.
You're busy.
And,
yeah.
I'm busy. Yeah, I'm 6 chapters into it. It's called, what is it called? Health Insurance Oxymorons.
Okay.
How third-party bureaucracy is killing you and robbing us blind. So
wow, very nice.
It's a beautiful story of industries taking advantage of us, and why we should take more responsibility for our own life.
That's awesome. I like that idea. Do we have any idea, any approximate? Do you think it's sometime in 2018 we're looking for a release there? I'm just throwing that out there.
Maybe. Who knows? I'm working on it. I'm procrastinating a lot with this one. I don't know why, but eventually I'll make something.
It'll get out in the market.
I never had training in writing. That's just wasn't a thing. But I found that I can be really good at it. Like I find that first of all I like it a lot when I write,
sure.
And I like to read my writing.
Oh, listen,
maybe that sounds a little weird.
Pat on the back.
But it's funny because when I write, I like it. I like the way it comes out. I don't know what to tell you.
That's cool. I totally get that. I write for a living, so I'm here to tell you I just get excited at the idea of any kind of writing. So I totally get what you mean, and I procrastinate all the time. But I can't do that when I'm at a radio show, and I have to be prepared for a client that comes on my show. And if I said to you I didn't write your script today, we would never show. So I'll bug you in about 3 months, or I'll make MJ bug you in like 3 months and say, hey, that guy got his thing done or what? Now we want to talk about, for almost 13 years now, I know that you've been the CEO of Health Media Group. And just so you folks know that are listening in, Health Media Group itself is a wellness marketing organization. And you take different individuals and you place them in front of the public, whether it's a wellness-oriented physician or anti-aging or healers of all types. So all different sorts of interesting people in front of the public. So when you set off to start up Health Media Group, I'm just curious to see if the vision you started with, you've achieved that said goal and surpassed it, because it almost seems as though you're right where you need to be, if not further along. Make sense?
Well, I thank you very much, but I kind of don't see it that way. I feel like after 13 years of effort, you think more people will be so much more aware. I mean, not because of me, but social media and like the threads that I'm in. Everybody's health conscious. Everybody's exercising. But you talk to the average person on the street, they just have no concept whatsoever. Like they think cereal for breakfast is good. They think they don't give much thought to all the sugar they're eating every year, the pesticides, the genetically modified foods. I mean, they have no concept whatsoever. So I feel like, yes, I mean, we're working hard. We're trying to make a difference. And we are in the many, many tens of thousands of people. But there's 300 million people in America that will suffer and die much earlier because they just don't have access to information, or they're not motivated, or they're not, I don't know. So I thank you, but I feel like there's just so much work to do. Sometimes it's just overwhelming.
But you'd be amazed, actually, and this just happened to me today before I got on air. I just did a film festival in New York City, and it was my first one, and I was petrified. For days now, I've been saying to myself, oh, my God, it was a failure. It was awful. And then right before I came on air, someone that I can't say who she is, but she sent me a lovely note, and she said, I want to be like you, and your actions, your words, and what you did touched my life, period, and I will support anything you do. To me, that says something. That says I've already succeeded. My guess is you've probably touched more lives than you'll ever know. That's just a personal observation, being in the same kind of...
I appreciate that. Thank
True.
you.
Look at it that way. You're a total success. Really. Truly. I mean, look what you do. How many other companies do what you do? That is a legitimate question. In your market, is there competition, meaning huge amounts? Because I'm guessing you're more of a specialty niche, are you not?
Very much so. I don't think anyone really does what we do exactly, because there are some health shows, sure. Some are focused on alternative medicine. Some are even focused on wellness. Some are on prevention. But I don't think there's anyone out there who's actually focused their attention on the science of human optimization. And I think that will, if there's a God in heaven, and I'm sure there is, that will be the future of how healthcare is done. We're going to use all this technology, all of this science, and all of these brilliant people to figure out how do we function at our very peak level of health expression. Why do we need to wait until we develop a chronic condition to then scramble and try to figure out and unravel this thing we've built over 10, 20, 30 years? So so we're different, and but we have cousins in the neighborhood.
You betcha. Now, to those that are listening in, again, that may not be as familiar, of course, So here you are, the CEO of this corporation. So let's say you go out tomorrow. Who do you target in particular in terms of clients to work with? Who would be some of the people that we would recognize where you said we work with them, we have an established relationship with them, just so folks kind of get somewhat of a better idea of who you work with and what you do more specifically?
Oh, sure. We worked with Suzanne Summers, I'm sure you know, and
yes, I've heard.
Mark Hyman. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's a medical doctor, best-selling author many times over.
Oh. Okay.
I'm sorry?
No, I think I've heard of that name before, as a matter of fact. I wanted to ask you if you ever worked with Dr. John Sarno before he passed away.
Dr. John who?
John Sarno is his name. It's Sarno. He was a New York City physician, actually. He literally just passed away 6 months ago, if that. And the reason I ask is because Dr. Sarno was of the belief, meaning like back disorders or carpal tunnel or gastroenterological problems.
Sure. He wrote a book. On the topic.
Yeah.
I never worked with him, but I'm aware of it.
I just read it.
Sure.
Yeah,
oh,
and
awesome.
it just moved my life. I was like, I could definitely see you guys working with somebody along those lines. But that's why I guess totally I'm asking.
Yeah.
That's
totally
your thing, isn't
doctor.
it?
Sure. Yeah.
Exactly. That's what I thought. Now, my question is, because there are some of us who subscribe to John Sarno and say to ourselves, we encourage his work, etc. So again, that makes me wonder, not all doctors embrace that same ideology. So how have you been able to win over the pride of the physicians, if you will, or advocation by them to say, you know what, we're on board with Health Media Group? Because I could imagine there's some adversity in terms of that. Do you know what I mean?
Well, yeah. So a lot of the integrated doctors that we work with kind of found their way into this kind of proactive approach to care because they themselves developed a health problem. And I think it takes something that large for them to be able to shift 10 years of education and a certain philosophical view of healthcare. So they're hard to come by, but a lot more doctors who have not had a health issue are developing an interest in doing something outside the allopathic model of care. And a lot of that just because they're so frustrated being in that system. I spoke with doctors who told me, I was sold a lie. I spent all these years studying and learning and investing, and I came out, and it's a totally different thing than what I imagined it to be, And I feel for them because now they're trapped. They're trapped after 10 years and a $250,000 investment. What are you going to do? Become a baker? You got to follow what you started. That's tough.
Yeah, no.
But some of the braver ones are still doing it.
I applaud their efforts, that's for sure. It's a tough world to be living in as it relates to healthcare right now nowadays. And there are some that subscribe to, I just heard this the other day, somebody in conversation was saying that our food products are killing us because they're full of toxins. Our doctors are trying to kill us because they're pumping us full of pills because it's beneficial for them. There's many things and many people that are out there with many different beliefs, obviously. If I were to ask you today, what are you most proud of thus far that Health Media Group has managed to accomplish, what would you tell me?
Well, it's interesting. I did an interview with one of the magazines. They had me write up, answer a bunch of questions, and I don't think I thought of it this way. I mean, before, but my children, who are 24 and 19 now, a boy and a girl, they kind of grew up around the expo, and I grew up in Soviet Union, and I grew up on some really bad food. And then when we came to America, I grew up on cereal and candy and all these bars and all that stuff.
Sure.
So they watched my transition from one way of living life to an entirely different way of living life.
Sure.
And now both of them are very health conscious. They know what food to eat, what food not to eat. They know to exercise. Like, they have a very good idea of what it takes to stay optimally well. And that, to me, I think, is the proudest thing I can think of, because ultimately the reason we do all the stuff we do is for our children, and to pass on this kind of a legacy to generations moving forward. I think that's the biggest gift I could have given them.
That's awesome. I love that. Congratulations. That is a big deal, actually. That's wonderful.
Thank you very much.
Are they also hands-on, meaning that do they not only attend the expo, do they work it at all? Have they done that in the past? I'm just curious.
Well, yes. My son is a little more entrepreneurial than my daughter, and
Gotcha.
so when I first started the expo, I reserved a little table for him. He was, I think, I want to say 10 or 12 at the time, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was standing there, and over the years he built a little company selling honey. I found him this raw honey company. So he sells honey, bee pollen, coconut oil. He later added, and the company is called Natural Sweetie.
Mm-hmm.
And his tagline is "Our business is your pleasure."
Oh, cute.
Yeah. So he grew up.
That's really cool.
He grew up around some really amazing physicians and the public. So he was interacting and selling stuff at the expo for many years. Now he's an entrepreneur in his own right. He actually went to college for entrepreneurship, and so he's doing a lot of stuff on his own. But he helps me as well when he's available. My daughter is more of a creative. She's an artist, and she draws a lot. And she's studying now graphic design at Binghamton. And she's a good girl. But when she saw that my son, who's older than her, had a booth, she said, "Daddy, I also want a booth. I want to do something there." I said, "Well, what do you want to do?" I want to dance,
That's so cool. Typical artist.
Yeah, it didn't fit our business model, so it didn't work out. But
poor daughter. I'm with your creative, though. I totally be the same way. I totally want to do that. But kudos for her, though. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Before we move on to talking about the expo itself, I want to mention this, of course. So how often, because I noticed that people can subscribe via your website to your newsletter. So does that come out every month or once a year? How often can people get information on that? Or I should say obtain the newsletter, rather.
Get information from the newsletter or attend the expo?
Yeah, like once they subscribe to the newsletter, like sometimes you have companies that will do them once a month, a couple times a year, et cetera. So how often do you publish that information, the newsletter itself?
Well, so we look to do something once a week, and what we actually do is at the expo we have these 18-minute talks that some of the professionals are doing. On Saturday there'll be more of that. So each of the practitioners, we have 24, they'll do 18-minute talk on the different topics, and so we do an email blast once a week with one of those talks that's video recorded. And then we just, people see it live, and then we send them out over a period of like 6 months. So we do that, and then when the expo's coming up, once a week we send an email about what's happening, promotional things, if there's any local events that are happening or some interesting things going on. So like that. But once a week is the answer.
Very cool. Well, that brings us, of course, to the expo itself. First portion I want to talk about is, because I am a writer, so I'm always touting that written stuff. The Navel Expo itself produces a magazine. Now, is that a magazine that's put out on site, meaning after all the demonstrations and things are done and it's written on site? Because sometimes expos will do that. Or is it just the byproducts of the expo itself? Just so I understand.
Yeah, the magazine highlights everything that's going to be happening at the expo. And actually, it's one of the main marketing pieces that we use to promote the show. So in this current one that we have about 70 lectures listed, people flying in from around the country, and we have all the exhibitors listed, and the doctors who are speaking. Some of them we interview, my writers and I, and we put together an article based on what their message is, what they're going to be speaking about, kind of give people a little bit of a taste of what they can expect at the show. So it's a way to educate people who may not make it to the show and pre-educate those that will.
Gotcha. Awesome. Now, you started this expo in 2005. Obviously, it's 2017 now, so clearly you've been around 12 years now. So one of the first things that I noticed about this, because I've looked at the array of offerings that you've had, I noticed that you do it in 2 different locations, and that intrigued me. So I'm curious to ask you, because your first location, of course, is in Times Square. The second one is in Long Island, and that's quite a difference. Yeah. So I was just curious to ask you, what made you pick those 2 venues?
Well, we started on Long Island, and we've been here for 13 years. And I have a pretty established following here, both in people that attend the show as well as physicians that use it to promote their practice. And we decided to expand into Manhattan, so we're actually doing 2 shows in the city and then 2 shows on Long Island. So it was 4 shows a year, and it was just exhausting, you know. My team and I were just beat. So we decided to combine them. Really what I wanted to do is to do a 2-day show in New York City once a year and then 2-day show on Long Island once a year. But venues are very very difficult to come by. We have Long Island that only has a few locations that can actually fit us at this point and that are presentable enough. And New York City, with all of their space, you'd think it's a very tight market. It's very difficult to find the kind of space that'll fit you, that you can afford, and that's kind of centrally located. So it's a tricky thing, but we're working on it.
And you're doing well because you're still around. Kudos to you on that whole 12-year thing. I'm not even sure I'm going to do another festival, and I'm on year 1. Okay, so I know what it's like to prepare. People don't understand the level of work it takes to recruit people and sales and marketing. Well, you know the drill. So kudos to you on that one. We're all about empowerment on this show. I'm sure you get that. So you'll feel better by the time you hang up the phone. Interestingly enough, when I was reading your media kit, this just blew me away, that your strongest level of participation comes from a female audience. That intrigued me a little bit. I'm curious to ask you why you believe that you draw in females more so than any other type of audience, meaning I believe it's a 35 to 50-year-old bracket. Why them, do you think?
Well, yeah, because they're powerful and beautiful creations. That's why, one of the reasons.
Aww, you just got a whole lot of points there. Thank you.
That's right.
I appreciate that.
But also because moms drive the whole proactive health market. They understand that the current model isn't serving them or their children or their spouses. And so guys tend to be a little bit lackadaisical about this kind of stuff for the most part. And it takes a strong woman who will motivate them to take the proper action. So I don't know, we just get a lot of really amazing women attending. We actually created an event to kind of recognize them. We call it the Iron Mom Awards. So
that's cool.
Yeah. So anyone can nominate a mom, and then we have all these nominees. Our judges identify the finalists, and we did it already a couple of times. And the last time, the mom that won, she received like $5,000 in cash and prizes, and she went on the cover of our publication. And it's really like a cool, fun thing. And some of the stories these moms share is just amazing. I mean, in the middle of raising children, running a household, many of them work. They also have organizations, or they try to do something to inspire the public on some level somewhere. They're just amazing, and they're tireless, which just blows my mind.
I believe that, definitely. And what's nice, too, is that we as moms, I think sometimes we have just a natural nurturing instinct, which means we're automatically looking for new and interesting ways to keep our kids healthier, to keep our families in better shape, mentally, physically, metaphysically, the whole 9 yards. So that's important. So it makes a lot of sense. Now, clearly, I was looking through some of the lists here, and I was curious to see, obviously he's got acupuncture. We've got Argon there. Holistic cannabis. What made you go that direction? Because, again, there's a whole lot of cannabis supporters out there, including myself, mind you. But how does that go over? I mean, have you had some of the critics there that may not necessarily be as keen on that, and why integrate holistic cannabis?
Well, it wasn't my idea. I don't know. All of a sudden, cannabis became like a thing, and people are calling me from all over the country. They want to be a part of the show, and I see it because it's like a more natural approach to pain relief. And from what I'm hearing from some of the doctors, they're liking it. They're liking the fact that it's not a chemical per se product, and it's able to relieve pain, and it's able to cause a lot of health benefits without any of the adverse effects. So I'm still kind of exploring it. I mean, I'm not using it myself, even though I was offered by some of the exhibitors, try it. And I don't have a problem. I just don't have any things I would try it for. But people seem to like it. The doctors seem to like it, and the market seems to be open to it. So we'll see where that goes. I don't know. We got like 5 companies. I got one that came from they're flying in from one of the states where they have was much more popular. The mountains. What is that? Ski there. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, so they're coming in from there.
Somewhere.
Yeah.
We get it.
Yeah.
No, but I just found that interesting because I'm like, that seems to be the new wave. I've been hearing a lot of talk about acupuncture. Obviously, you've got the chiropractic angle there because Rhino Chiropractic will be there. We have Mountain Valley Water, Vitamix, which I remember when I was like a teenager. I'm like, oh, my God, that stuff is still around because I'm 48 now, and I'm like, oh, my God. It's still out there. And the living oils, of course, too, because all of us have tried essential oils at some point in time. But the one thing that also intrigued me in terms of the product side of things, infrared saunas. Can you tell me a bit about that? I know very little, but it almost sounded like I wasn't sure how that fit in with your model. I'm not familiar with it.
Detoxification is crucial. I'm looking at my sauna right now. I'm actually in my office. Yeah, and I have it's like a 5 foot by 5 foot, and infrared is awesome because it penetrates the body 3 inches deep, so it helps remove a lot of the toxicity from the organs as well as the skin, which is one of our main detoxification organs. And all of my doctors love it. They all promote it. They all use it. And you want to make sure first of all you don't toxify yourself. So you want to keep away from genetically modified food, anything with heavy metals.
Sure.
But then you want to on a regular basis detoxify yourself. So I love sauna. I love hot Epsom salt bath. That kind of stuff. There's nothing like it.
That's awesome. That sounds so cool. I don't have one of those. Thank you very much. I have an office with a couch and lots of other equipment. Thank you. I'm just totally liking you, but not liking you right now. I appreciate that. But that does beg to ask the question. So the boss that I'm talking to here, so when you're putting the expo together and you're trying to decide which product lines that you want to display during the course of the expo, what does that really come down to in terms of when you're looking at all these submissions and all those people that are coming to you and saying, we want to be a part of this amazing event? How do you kind of cut it down to we're going to use these versus these?
Well, it's very simple. I tell my marketing team that we're looking anything that's human optimization focused. Whatever that is, like how do we improve the human experience? It could be health, it could be finances, it could be vacation, it could be supplements, it could be some technology that helps you do something or other. So it's got to be along those lines. Anything that's a little bit more esoteric, we have a lot of tarot card readers reaching out to us. I have no problem with tarot card readers. Nice. It just doesn't fit the model of what we're trying to communicate, And so, I mean, there's a lot of different companies that reach out to us just because they're looking to access the public, but not necessarily all of them will fit. So it took us a long time in the beginning, to identify these kind of things. It was very, very difficult. And now that we got our head a little bit above water, some people can see us and they find us, which is a lot better. But it's still a very evolving market. It's a very niche market. There's not a lot of stuff going on here, but things are changing, and they're changing very rapidly. So I think this science of human optimization will be the next big thing because there's just so much technology coming out. So many brilliant people are getting involved. If you got Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos creating competition for NASA, they're actually creating their own spaceships. It's amazing what entrepreneurship can create in healthcare once we're allowed to do it.
That is amazing. Now, I know I did a little bit of research, but not a whole lot. I saw that your keynote speaker for this year is Dr. Lee Erin Connolly. And I'm curious to ask, just tell us a bit about her background and how you got integrated in having a working relationship with the good doctor.
Dr. Connolly is amazing. She is actually one of those doctors that was having health issues from birth, even before birth. Her mother was put on some kind of a drug that was popular back then that made her prone to get cancer. So she, even though she became a regular medical doctor, she was always very integrative and holistic in her mindset. And she was always very open-minded because she was looking at everything out there that could help. And so she became very, very successful in California. In fact, she has a 25,000 square foot center in California.
Wow.
So
wow.
it's tremendous. She wrote a number of books. One of them is The Cancer Revolution. That's the last one. And I'm almost finished reading it. It's one of the best books in and around health prevention and wellness and optimization that I've read. And I've read many, many, many. Just because I used to do a radio show, so everybody I interviewed, I would read their book beforehand.
Oh,
and,
right, of course.
So I read some amazing books, but she did such an outstanding job. She's it's her passion. She was voted one of the top 50 doctors in the country, along with Dr. Oz, and she's just a remarkable lady. And she's got the passion and the courage and the chutzpah to get the job done.
I love that word. That's an amazing word. I thought I was the only one who used words like that, so that's really cool. And it's also really cool that you do a radio show. Why aren't you doing it? You have the voice for radio, better than I do. What happened?
Well, thank you. I did it for over 10 years. I was on WGBB, is a Long Island station. It's one of the oldest stations in the country. In 1922, they founded. But it was bought over by an ethnic group, and they went completely Chinese. So they asked me very nicely not to come back with my with my program. But I loved it. I mean, I loved it. I interviewed people from all around the world, and it was an educational experience for me. It was just a great time. So eventually, what I'd like to do is maybe get on one of those stations in New York. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see. But that's something I think I would enjoy once a week. Do something like that.
That's really cool. That's awesome. I like that. Yeah. Now, just so you folks know what we're talking about, obviously, the event itself is going on the 4th and the 5th. As we mentioned, it's at the Sheraton Times Square on the first day, at the Huntington Hilton Long Island on the second day, running from 9 a.m. in the morning till 7 p.m. at night. Now, I went on the website, and one thing that confused me was, now when people are purchasing tickets, I saw the $20 weekend pass. So is that the only option, let's say? Like, for instance, if one person's coming one day, because it clicks me right to that $20. So I was a little unclear about ticket price.
Well, the one-day event was $20. So we made it a 2-day event and just kept it at $20 for the weekend.
Got it. Okay, gotcha. So it's that 120-day one. And, of course, obviously, I know that they can get it off the website, but if somebody hears about this today and then decides and sits on it for a day and shows up, can they still get tickets at the door? I'm assuming you're not sold out at this point.
Yeah, no, sure, of course. They can buy tickets at the door.
Okay.
I mean, it's a busy day, much more busier on Long Island than in New York, although New York is getting very busy as well. But sure. They can purchase tickets at the door, sure.
Oh, that's wonderful. Terrific.
Yeah.
And, of course, will you be, before I forget to ask, will you be, I'm assuming, speaking on and off for the next 2 days at the expo yourself, or is it more so less focused on you and everyone else?
It's focused on everybody else, but I am doing one presentation. It's the first presentation of the event. It's on Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. And
nice.
It's just an 18-minute talk. But what I talk about is this idea of the whole healthcare system and the way it's set up to really kind of benefit from our sickness and disease, and what's available at the Navel Expo and some of the physicians that we work with. So I just want to kind of explain how to work the Navel Expo and how to get the most out of it, and kind of set the tone of all these amazing people that we're bringing together.
That's really cool. Now, before I forget to ask this, to those that are listening in, if I've done my job well enough, he sounds impressive enough to where you say to yourself, I want to go down to that expo and I want to meet him. But in case I haven't done my job well enough, and he is on the phone right now, to everybody, all 60,000 people that are listening in, tell them the number one reason why they should come to your expo this weekend, since it is your product and I've not been invited. Actually, I was invited, but I'm not in New York today. I just got back from New York. But tell everybody why they should come at least one day of the expo, if not both, by the way.
Well, the number one reason why everyone should attend this expo, I think, is because it's about the most beautiful, powerful, remarkable, buoyant creation on this planet. And it's about the human being, and it's about you. So our goal is to inspire you, to remind you how magnificent you are, how complex, and how powerful you are, and that if there's anything you might be dealing with in and around health or the way you feel or the way you think, you can empower that. You can recreate that. You can design it in the way that you want, that will benefit your life on a much better level. So that's why, because you're awesome. That's why you should come.
Now you should apply that same ideology to yourself, by the way, because I noticed that you haven't given yourself enough credit. So I hope you heard that whole little monologue that you just did, because that's exactly very well put. I appreciate that. Now here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to read off all the different ways to find you, of course. Now, just as a heads up to you and everybody else that's listening in, usually about 2 hours after the show is live, it becomes an archived episode. So, of course, I'll send you over both the copy from Blog Talk Radio plus it's a copy from the YouTube link, because we automatically upload our shows to YouTube, which is nice. So this way anybody can listen in all weekend long, which I think is absolutely awesome. So there's that. I don't want to forget, as always, you're my second MJ client in 2 days. I've been duly impressed. She brought me two absolutely wonderful, phenomenal gentlemen that didn't scare the hell out of me too much. And you tolerated me quite well because I'm sick. I have this terrible cold that I can't get rid of.
You are an amazing interviewer, Cindy. I'm so impressed with you. Amazing. Your questions are so poignant, and you're fun, and you got the rhythm going on. Good for you, my friend. Good for you.
Well, you know, after you do this for like 6 years, after a while, they kind of expect that. And I'm surprised because at my festival, I did all these live interviews over the course of 4 days. So I'm kind of interviewed out, and I had to come home and do, 4 shows this week. So I'm like, yeah, I'm really thrilled that you're on, but I'm even more thrilled that I don't have to interview anybody for the next 3 days except see my children. I'm like, that's like, I get to see my kids. No New York, no pretty dresses, no nothing. Definitely. So first I'll read off the ways to find you, and then when I get finished, just let me know if I missed anything. There's 2 different, actually, the navelexpo.com is where you're going to find all the information about the expo. You'll see written information about your company, which is Health Media Group, so visit navelexpo.com. He's also on Facebook. He has a personal page, and we have a lot of mutual friends, by the way, because I creeped on you, so you might get a friend request. Also, there's a Facebook page for the Navel Wellness Expo as well. You're also on YouTube, Google+, LinkedIn, and your Twitter handle is and his name is Alex, and the last name is spelled Lubarsky. Any other places where folks can find you? Oh, I assume Amazon is where the book is, correct?
Yes, Amazon, yep.
Okay, we don't want to forget about that one. Any other places that we might have?
I think my house. I think you've covered everything.
Well, I'm supposed to. That is my job, definitely.
Yeah, no,
so the last thing I get to do, because you've never been on my show, is I get to tell you what I think of you.
Okay.
Now, this always goes different ways. Sometimes people cry. Sometimes people don't know what to say. It's funny. This is the only part of the show that's not scripted. That means I don't write this. This means it comes right off of my head and right onto you. But we always have a surprise element to my show. So here's the surprise element. Obviously, I wish I could say I'll surprise you and come to your expo, but I am not flying to New York because I got sick coming from New York to Wisconsin. So I'm home with children. So I'm not going to your expo, although I wish I was because it sounds interesting. However, in replacement of that, hopefully the stars will align where you and I will be in a room together. And just so that you know, in case your lovely MJ didn't tell you, one of my ventures coming up for the next coming year is going to involve some of the things that we've talked about in the interview today. I'm actually doing a documentary on a subject that I'm not talking about on air yet. But if you want to participate in independent film, that's one option. The second thing is I'm starting my magazine next year, which is a very big step for me. But since I'm the founder, I get to write about anything I want. So if the good man on the other end of the phone would like to come on or come and sit down and have an actual interview with me in person, because I'm a journalist too, we'll get you written up in my magazine, because I think it's important to cover topics and subjects of all different types. So if you're interested, you can hit me up in the new year, because I'm not starting until 2018, but you're more than welcome.
I appreciate that, sure.
Having said that, we'll wrap the show up with me telling you what I think of you. One of the things that I noticed about you when I looked at the picture for the very first time is you don't sound the way you look. I know that that'll sound strange to you, but it's true. I was expecting something different, meaning when you called in, like you would be taller and you would be older and you would be less charming. I was wrong. You're very charming, you're very intelligent, and you're very dedicated and devoted to your course of action. That, to me, is always very enticing. I enjoy working and networking with individuals who have a goal and they stick to it. I'm even more impressed by the fact that you actually put your words on paper, because I do it all the time. Because you are a creative person and not just a technical person, I think that makes you multifaceted, which I'm very fascinated about. You give yourself too little credit, so let me be the first to tell you, again, to remind you, this huge expo that you've created isn't just a 2-day event. It's really a 365-day event, because the things that you do, the things you embark on, the people you highlight, and the products that you emphasize all have a lasting impression on other people. Don't forget that. I think oftentimes people fold and they stop doing things because they forget that. So please don't. Know that you can come back on my show anytime you want, because, well, who doesn't want to hang out with me? Just kidding. I'm the worst company right now. I hope that you've enjoyed your time. I really am hoping, and I will continue to keep posting the expo up so that folks will go ahead and show up. And I hope it's a huge success, and I hope I've done some good for you.
I appreciate it so much. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed you a lot, and I look forward to our paths crossing once again, Cindy. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. Definitely. And like I said, give me about 2 hours. We'll send this over to you and to MJ, and I look forward to speaking to you more and working together. It'll be great.
Sounds great. Thank you so much.
All right, Alex. Thank you so much. Have a great time this weekend.
See you later. Bye.
Bye-bye. Tell me that guy was not fabulous, right? Another MJ introduction. Can I just say how fabulous she is? I can't even begin to go there. So in any case, one more time, the website itself is navelexpo.com. He can also be found on Amazon, Google+, LinkedIn, YouTube. His Twitter handle is @Alex, and the last name is Lubarsky, which is Lubarsky. And as far as Facebook, he has an actual personal page as well as his actual Navel Wellness Expo page. That's where you can check out and see where all the products are located, the exhibitors that are there, all the guest speakers, info on the keynote speaker, on Navel Expo magazine, as well as his company, which again is called Health Media Group. Again, huge thank you. 2 days in a row with MJ. I am so impressive. I just, she's got the best of the best all the time. So if I haven't said it, MJ, you're extraordinary, and don't forget that. And I am so grateful that we work together so often and that the stars have aligned us. So thank you, my love. Again, anybody who needs something from entertainment, if you're an athlete, if you're in lifestyle, if you need any form of PR, Indra Public Relations. It's indrapr.com. Please go ahead and look her up. I, of course, finally am done, and I can die from my head cold. No, I'm kidding. I have to go pick up my kids and drop them off, et cetera, et cetera. You guys have a wonderful weekend. If you get an opportunity, before I forget, let's obviously mention the event one more time. It's the Navel Expo. It's going on November 4th and 5th. First day at the Sheraton Times Square. Second day at the Huntington Hilton, Long Island, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. both days. And as he mentioned, it's $20 for your pass, and that includes both events. Please tell him that I said hello from me to him, obviously. Enjoy your weekend. Thank you so much to everybody that listened in, and I'll talk to you next week. Take care.
Mike and I are both veterans, both served in the Navy.
We bought our first home together in 2010.
His family had used another insurance product, but I was like, well, I've had USAA for a while. Why don't we call and check the rates?
It was an instant savings, and I should have changed a long time ago.
The open enrollment period for health insurance will only run November 1st to December 15th, so make sure you're covered for 2018 with a local carrier you can trust. Children's Community Health Plan, an affiliate of Children's Hospital of Wisconsin, offers Together with CCHP, a health insurance plan that includes a new catastrophic plan for individuals under the age of 30. Our plans give you access to high-quality health care from a broad network of providers in Southeast Wisconsin. Learn more at togethercchp.org.